Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to begin modeling the hand. So make sure you follow your references. I have my two references here, the front and the side reference. Again, if they don't load when you open your file in your Windows Outliner, select the image plane and then just go ahead and in your plane shape here tab, just reload here and then swap from in all views to looking through camera, and it loads right back up. Anyway, let's get into modeling the hand. So I'm going to start with a cylinder, and I'm going to change my poly cylinder settings. I'm going to make this 8, and then I'm going to go ahead and just scale it down, and I'm going to bring it into place. So I have a pretty good reference. I'm going to also do round cap and change this to like 3. So I have a pretty good reference on the length and proportion of my fingers here. So I'm going to go and start about at this point, and then I'm just going to go ahead and drag this over for now, and I'm going to go ahead and delete the top of it. Now, one thing I want to make sure that I keep track of is where the knuckles are. So the first knuckle is probably, I'm just looking for the center of it, give or take about this point, give or take. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just simply going to extrude upward, and then I'm going to scale this out just a bit. Oop. And then go back here, edge, hold shift to extrude up, and then I'm going to just bring this inward just slightly, and then again I'm going to go to the about where the point of I need to have 3 edge loops for each section that's going to deform, so each knuckle in this case. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to scale this out a bit, switch here, bring this in just ever so subtly, and then bring this up to the top to where it meets. Now I want to make sure I get this finger right, because I'm going to use this as a copy for the rest of the model. So I'm going to select this one here. I'm using my brush tool, B, or my soft select tool. Holding B and left clicking left and right will resize your brush to what you want it to be. And in this case, that's actually a little bit too much. I want to bring this part in, and I'm actually going to turn off my soft select tool for this one, because your knuckle right at this point actually typically on the opposite side of the knuckle goes inward. Now another thing is that I'm going to select every knuckle point here, or every vertice on this edge loop except for the 2 that I just dragged in, and I'm also going to go ahead and bring those in subtly, and then same thing with the outside points. So once I get this one, because your finger's not totally round like that, it's got more of a flatness to it, and then I can also scale this in just a little bit, because your fingers aren't perfectly cylindrical all the way through, and I would say that's a pretty good start. And if you feel like your knuckles are popping just a little bit too much, I'm going to turn on my soft select tool and just kind of see if I can get a good range on it, because your knuckles typically are a little bit wider. Not in all cases, it depends on your reference, but I think that's a pretty good start to this. And maybe I bring this part in just a little bit more. Okay. Alright, so that's the one finger. Now I'm going to duplicate it, drag it over, and I'm going to switch to a view that I can actually see my reference, and I'm going to go about to there. And then I'm going to bring this one smaller. Put this one about here. And then one more. The pinky. I'm going to drag smaller and place about here. Now I'm also going to grab my middle finger for the thumb. I would say that the thumb width is approximately the same size, maybe slightly wider, just ever so subtle. And then I'm going to select these faces, and your thumb only has that one joint so in it, and then it has a sort of a back knuckle at the bottom, because I don't think your actual knuckle or your thumb is actually even considered a finger in the first place, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so I have it up to this point, and you'll notice as I rotate it and press W and R and things like that, it's going to the axes of the actual thumb. So if I select my little hammer here, which opens my tool settings, I can change the orientation to world, which will go off the world orientation, or we go to the object orientation. I'm going to stick with the object orientation for now, and then I'm simply going to rotate this a little bit, and something like that. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, and maybe even a little bit more. Nah, I'd say that's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is, going back to this point, you can always create fingernails and things also if you'd like. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to, on my particular model, and you can do the same, how you would go about doing that is you just select the faces that you need, and then you would, one way of doing it, you could run an extrude inward and then bring it out, maybe down a little bit, and then you, if you wanted to have longer fingernails, you could grab these faces also and bring them down like so, and maybe curl it in a little bit. And when we enter 3 mode, you'll see that you start to get that fingernail look to it. Like I said, I'm going to just texture mine in, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. You can do the same thing when we get to texturing, and that's all there is to getting the fingers into place and shape. And all we did was create one and then duplicate it and drag it over. Now the next thing, I'm going to select all these fingers and run a combine. Mesh combine. Alright. And from this point, I'm going to exit my 3 mode and double click this to, there we go, minimize it, and I'm going to simply run a bridge as we've done before. And go ahead and bridge, and I'm going to keep the divisions at 0. And bridge, and bridge. Alright, now I can also bridge my thumb here. Okay, but before I do that, I need to combine it. Go to my edge mode, and I'll use these two. So 1 and 1, and this one, and this one, and I'm going to run a bridge again. And in this case, I'm actually going to include 1 subdivision link. Okay. Now from this point, what we're going to do is I'm just going to simply start to grab all of these edges, and then I'm going to press W and extrude upward, and then in my vertices I'm going to merge vertices to center. Same thing here. Alright. Go back to my edge mode. Select all of these. And then I'm going to run another extrude. Back up. And then also again, I'm just going to merge these to center. Alright, and now we have the start of our hand. You can run this same exact process all the way through. Just selecting all of those and then extruding up. And then I'm going to do it one more time. And then merge vertices to center. I'm going to do the same thing here. And here. And now when I get to this point, I can simply select the entire edge loop up top, extrude upward. Okay. And then that should be pretty good. Now the hand's super flat and weird looking, which is okay for now. And I stopped basically about where the wrist is. And one of the things I can do to get this to look a little bit more like a hand is I'm going to show you a really cool, neat tool. I'm going to press Shift I with my hand selected. I'm also going to enter soften edges. And with my object selected, I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Sculpting Tools, and I'm going to use the Sculpt tool. Now I'm also going to have to brush my brush to be much smaller, and you can also find this in the tool settings, and I can bring the size way down, even way less down, and let's go like 0.15. Okay, that'll be good for now. So what I'm going to do at this point is, maybe smaller. I'm going to just start, make sure you bring down the strength also. Make it like 0.2 and see how that works. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to start to sculpt, and then holding Shift actually will smooth out your sculpt. So you can start to really get some cool, just kind of pulling some faces here and then smoothing them in to get this more of a hand look. So we know at the bottom of the hand there's a few little let's go here, there we go, and I'm just clicking. And then another trick you can do is holding Control sculpts inward, just so you know. And if you find the strength to be a little bit too strong, you can always bring it to be less. Less is easier to work with, obviously. You don't have as much to smooth out at that point. And if you just think about the hand, there's typically a little bump here where your palm is. And go ahead and smooth that out. And then also over here, I'm just going to add some stuff in and bring this larger and then smooth that out. Alright. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to do up here is I'm going to highlight all of these vertices. I just click one and Shift double click the next one. I'm going to hold Shift and right click and do average verts. I'm going to do that twice, and then I'm going to sort of turn this into a wrist a little bit. Alright, and then on the opposite side of the hand I'm going to go in and run a quick little sculpt also. So I'm going to go back to my Mesh Tools, Sculpting Tools, Sculpt Tool, and simply get a little bit more girth in this region so it's not so flat. And I'm just running this smooth tool. Now I'm holding Shift to run the smooth tool. and that should give me a little bit more of a hand look to it. Alright, and you can always smooth the top, but again that sort of starts to skew things. And then vertice, I'm going to run an average vert again. Oops. And then just sort of drag that up, and then scale it a little bit inward, and check my reference. And I'm just trying to stop it at around the wrist region. And another thing you can do is using your soft select tool, pressing B, you can sort of match your reference a little bit that way too. Okay, I'll bring this in slightly and this in slightly, and just sort of matching my reference here. And bring my soft select tool just so slightly smaller, and do something like so. And now I have a hand. The next thing I'm going to do is press Shift I, and I'm going to go over here, over here, and I'm going to rotate this at 90 degrees, or negative 90, excuse me, let me see. That will work. And actually, in which case, I think that's how I need it. Nope, I had it right. Okay, and then bring this up. And you're going to notice that I have more topology in here in my hand at the moment. And we're going to fix that when we combine the wrist to the body. So right now we're mostly concerned about is just the proportions of it. So I'm going to match it up as best as I can, and I'd say that's actually pretty good. And then I can bring it down just slightly, and then I'm going to match these up right. So I'm mostly concerned about the proportion of my arm and my hand. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a modify and freeze transformations. I'm going to hold D and X and snap my pivot point to the center grid line, X equals 0. And then I'm going to duplicate and scale X at -1. And now I'm going to switch back to this view, my perspective view, and just take a look at it. So now I've got my feet, my hands, my legs, my arms, and my body. None of it's connected yet, but we're going to take care of that in the next few labs. So thanks for watching. That's just a really basic way to model a hand to get started with it. And next we're going to begin combining the arm to the body and so on and so forth. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next one.